Welcome back, console fans. We are just about ready to go into the North American side of the SCL. But first, Tolly, I think we should check in with Europe because we saw a little bit of a split there in that first set, and they did have a tiebreaker match to go through, even though we didn't broadcast it.
That's right. It was Quantum against Kaz Esports that did indeed have that tiebreaker scenario, and that game favoring Kaz as they came out on top.
Some of the veterans here on the European console side end up with that third seed, but not enough to get them to the SCL Spring Finals. That'll be Team Rival up against Carbon 6. On the North American side of things, as we're getting ready to see those three sets coming at you, remember, every team out of North America is coming here to Atlanta in order to play, but it's a matter of the seeding.
Absolutely. It's going to be very important. It's going to be the first set. It's going to be Return, formerly known as Era Eternity, against Strictly Business. And there's going to be a little bit of a roster change here on the side of Return. Yeah,
they're going to have a different solo laner. Last week, it was Catalyst filling in that solo lane. This time, it's going to be Neximus. So losing a bit of that veteran presence, but someone who's a solo main. Catalyst really more of a hunter player than a solo. Though he did a great job as Return was able to find their first victory of the entire split last week.
It's always interesting to go from the hunter side lane into the solo side lane. You have a little bit of similarities in both, but with now a different solo laner, we'll see how Return goes into as we go into the first picks and bans.
In Strictly Business, they want to bounce back here totally because they had an important matchup up against my guys last week, and for lack of a better word, they got stomped by my guys. So they definitely want to bounce back and secure the second seed going into LAN.
To be fair, my guys is pretty good team. You know, they are undefeated currently in the SCL with 4 set wins. It's no easy task to overcome such veterans on the side of that roster.
Absolutely not. And my guys, they'll be taking up against Soar next set. But we got to get through this one first. Return up against SB. Return, they're focusing out the junglers, and that's the Reminisst there, the jungler for Strictly Business, whereas they're worried about the Guardians for Return. So Return immediately locking in that Awilix for oMarsleezy.
Taking away a lot of early game junglers, making sure that this Awilix is going to get into a comfortable position where she doesn't have to worry about too much retaliation and damage, but there's always going to be that threat of the Thor that you have to worry about.
Always, without a doubt. Both teams wanting to take picks away from their opposition. Awilix, one of Reminisc's most comfortable gods. Zhong, one of Clow's most comfortable gods. So you got shots heading back and forth there. Odin, the typical console selection. We see quite a bit of the warrior, and then the Skadi locked in for Return here.
Well, you know whatever happens when a Zhong is running at you with ghosts? You just lock him in a little cage. You get the Ghostbusters bag out, and then you just zap him in there, and then you run away.
That's all it takes, man. What a great counter that is. Batz going to be the selection for Strictly Business. And this Returns draft already puts SB in a difficult position because you either stick yourself in that Odin cage without picking a jump, or you pick into the Gravity Surge coming out of Awilix.
That's a great wombo combo that Return has locked in. Normally, it's the Odins that get drafted and Awilix into the counter pick, but surprising to see both of these work so well together. And this Batz needs to be very calculating about when he engages, either using the monkey bounces to teleport in, or maybe the blink.
Well, another jump ready to be pulled back in by that jungler oMarsleezy. It's going to be Anhur, the selection for Keji in that duo lane. Return need a little bit more tankiness, and they're going to go to the Terra, getting a little bit of sustain on their side as well that Strictly Business has not been able to answer back with. And Nuwa for Clow, surprisingly enough. Clow has always been known as a mid laner without the biggest god pool in the world, but he plays the select few that gods that he plays very, very well. We haven't seen him on Nuwa in basically as long as I can remember.
Not at all. Normally he plays the Vulcan, the Isis, and the Zhong himself at a very aggressive level. So for him to make those 3 gods and change it around into more passive Nuwa means that he's going to rely heavily on his frontliners to set him up in a comfortable position. And this is a different Cloud than what we're used to seeing here.
Yeah, especially with how good Vulcan would have been in this draft. I mean, you lock in everyone in that cage and line them up for the Vulcan ultimate, plus the knock-up with the Awilix. I was ready to pencil it in totally for the Vulcan pick, but instead Clow throws us all for a loop as he does so well so often.
You know,
and goes for this Nuwa.
Clow is an interesting character. You never really know what to expect out of him, whether it's inside of Smite or outside of Smite.
Truer words have never been spoken on the mic, Anatoly, than that right there. Either way, Return looking to find some more points, and we do sometimes see a team that's able to stumble through the first few weeks, then they start to get a little bit of momentum, finding the split last week. This could be an opportunity for Return to gain a lot of momentum momentum coming into LAN.
Definitely needs some sort of momentum with only 1 game victory so far this split, but on the backhand side already, some action.
Mr. Teep is going to be in trouble right now. Rooted and feather step. The beads not enough to save his life, and oMarsleezy claims the easy first blood in the middle lane. We've seen this time and time again, Toli. 2-man grouping in the mid lane, but a third comes around the back and makes the difference.
Normally it's around the dual lane side where that rotation happens, but this time it's going to be on the solo lane side. Never a good feeling for the mid laner to fall this early. Not to mention it's going to be a Zhong that falls. It seems like Cloud is going to leave the rest of his teammates hanging. The speed buff not going to be trying to go for stolen here by the side of return.
No, oMarsleezy does hit level 2 by clearing the little camps on the speed buff, so a little bit of advantage there. Clow, you also have to give shout-outs to him, even though Nuwa isn't one of his typical comfort picks. Looks pretty comfortable on it already. I love the decision to get his auto attack chain ready to go and then use that route onto Mr. Teep to guarantee the jump out of TheYungHomie.
Very small marginal advantage for return. The fact that they didn't commit onto that speed buff, because normally whenever there's an invade around the speed or the red buff by a mage in particular, you always have to worry about not only if you're going to be successful in terms of invading the buff, but if you're going to be escaping afterwards. And Nuwa doesn't have any sort of escape mechanics at level 2 with the exception of her passive if she can find the route. She's not going to have both the clay golems and the shining metal if she invested into the fog.
We'll Cdot here in the solo lane, the new solo laner for return. Like we mentioned, it was Catalyst last week who had a pretty good set on the Odin in particular in the game that return ended up winning. But do you like this idea? You're a new solo laner to a team. You might not be as comfortable in terms of the team fighting. We'll just throw you on a Guardian. We're not going to worry about your laning phase. We'll see you at the 15-20 minute mark.
That's normally how a lot of teams approach a new solo laner. We look at the PC side of things, and whenever we look at Sword Gaming, fine, okay, making that transition. He's also played the Terra in that role, and this is an easy god necessarily to play because of the global pressure that you provide for your teammates. Having that Terra's Blessing available, giving you maxed out CDR, a clear casting so none of your abilities cost mana, and just a lot of mobility in general.
oMarsleezy takes most of his health bar in poke. He really wanted to go that particular way into the mid lane. He's going to get punished for it a little bit, but the jungler should be ready to back pretty soon. Despite the first blood for oMarsleezy, still a little bit behind in terms of levels to that of Reminisst, who was able to secure his own speed. So what SB end up losing in the mid lane, they gain a little bit on that right-hand side. Having Chillvanus on the Khepri start on that right, really helping out the solo lane.
A little bit of poke done onto Cloud, but nice return fire onto Reminisst, even using the passive, making sure that the minions was still going to poke out the Hun Batz. And this is a nice play from Cloud, demonstrating that he's not a one-trick pony. He'll play the Nuwa despite it not being in his normal god pool back in Season 3.
Especially for a player that's been around as long as Cloud has. I mean, the age-old adage, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Cloud trying to put some of that to rest right now with this Nuwa pick. And he does seem to find one god each season to really put into his arsenal. In Season 2, it was the hi-rez in the mid lane that really started to... He was a trendsetter in that sense on the console scene. I remember having to learn how to play hi-rez mid because of Cloud's excellent performance on it. I still hold that against him a little bit, but I've come to love hi-rez a little bit. Season 3, it was the Vulcan that he pulls out of nowhere at the SCL Summer Finals and becomes one of his strongest picks in his god pool. Maybe here in Season 4, it's the Nuwa.
And I like what he does because it's going to force teams into situations and picks and bans where it's like, okay, there's a lot of mid-gods available here, but we know it's going to be Clow against us. Not necessarily might pick the Zeus all the time, might go for more of a comfort pick style. So now you're going to be banning away some of his comfort picks, which is going to leave some of the more standard mid-mages available to him.
Is there an advantage in having a god pool that is a little bit unconventional? Most of the gods in Clow's god pool are not the most meta picks. Of course, he has the Poseidon and the Zeus, who are very meta right now, but Zhong, Vulcan, Nuwa, not necessarily the top tier mid laners that we're seeing other mid laners pick up. Is there an advantage to that, or is it at a disadvantage?
As long as you can figure out the right timing to get these picks, and in a situation like this with this Nuwa being drafted, a heavy frontliner is going to be able to protect Cloud with the fact that the Terra can have a root and a stun, not to mention oMarsleezy is going to be able to negate Reminisst engagement, protecting the backline anyway. And as long as Cloud can get safely away from that early game, this is when Nuwa truly comes online. The shards is going to be dealing more and more damage, and this is what you're looking for your mid laner.
We'll return. They're looking for another point here in this set. Strictly Business looking to secure that second seed moving into the LAN. They don't have a shot at the #1 spot after getting 2-0'd pretty convincingly by my guys last week, but in the final week, this is definitely an opportunity for a team to get a little bit of momentum and confidence coming into the SCL Spring Finals land. That'll be the 3rd weekend of April if you want to mark it down on your calendars, and you absolutely should, because it's going to be, as we like to say, really, a barn burner.
Oh, well, I'm looking for more slobber knockers, honestly, more than anything else.
I think we can make that happen. I really do. I think that we can make it a barn burner / slobber knocker, especially with the level of talent that we're seeing coming out of the SCL. Each and every split, they seem to just improve. This time around, I've talked about it a lot in terms of this. Oh, hold on, I thought Cloud's in a lot of trouble in the mid lane, forced to use a purification beads and up into the fire shards, which delays a lot of this damage coming out of Teep's ultimate, but it's not going to make a difference in the end as the mid laner gets some revenge for the early first blood, putting Strictly Business on the board.
Great use of Chillvanus and Reminisst grouping up together. Reminisst throws out the ultimate, forcing the purification beads out of Clow. As soon as Clow lands, that bug hug was just imminent right away from that tier 1 tower. No safety potential for him, no rotations being made either, just to save the mid laner's life. And not to mention, earlier on, around that Gold Fury, oMarsleezy was caught out by that Khepri root pull combination, which also forced out his beat. So I actually assumed that Strictly Business was going to focus out the jungler because of that purification beats, but because of the dominant vision control around that Gold Fury, we see Strictly Business just making more and more plays on the mid lane.
And TheYungHomie backs just before that wave hits in the mid lane. Clow maybe steps up, assuming that his support is still there, but was not. Gold Fury started up and immediately dropping pretty low right now for return, but it's only 2 members on it. And with Chillvanus starting to sniff out something fishy on that left side, return forced to drop the objective.
It's always a good idea to use the Caldera dog just to tank the Gold Fury, as you don't have to tank the Gold Fury yourself, and you can reset the dog to make sure that it'll still be into action. You leave it at 1 health bar remaining out of 5 total, and that's a lot of DPS at the 7-minute mark to be able to control that objective. However, having 2 sentry wards that early on, Strictly Business, was very evident for them that return was doing the gold.
Well, Clow uses the ultimate just to see where everyone was. I think maybe he thought he was going to be in a little bit of danger coming around on the bottom, but really it's Mr. Teep who's in a bit of danger. Great patience out of return though. Teep pops the ultimate in response to get a little bit of extra protections, but return was like, chill, bro. There was nothing going on there. We were just saying hi.
TheYungHomie wanted to get the damage off, but because he missed a bird bomb, there was no cage immediately responded after. Nice little try by Niquid finding the ultimate, but great separation by return.
Strictly Business team composition definitely wants to wait until the later stages of the game with that Guardian in the solo lane, though return is matching it. I think that Strictly Business's team fight is phenomenal. Look at the amount of coverage, just area coverage they have between the Anhur pillar, the Fear No Evil, the Zhong ultimate. I mean, you've got a ton of AoE to throw around in these team fights.
Not only the offensive capabilities of Strictly Business, but also the defensive on the left-hand side, though. Forced into a lot of ultimates. oMarsleezy wants to go back in with that Terra's Blessing.
A knock up onto Niquid, who's out of mana, as is Reminisst, but both Cdot and oMarsleezy just too low to continue the engagement. All in all, you get the gravity surge and Reminisst. Yeah, TheYungHomie cleans him up with the bird bomb, but you got to give shout outs to the Terra there, setting it up with the crushing earth.
Reminisst just had no business in that right-hand side without any sort of mana remaining. Great rotation from TheYungHomie, really taking advantage of that botched little 2v2 engagement right behind that fire giant, just like that. Return now, get their 2nd kill on the board, and that's going to allow oMarsleezy just to catch up a little bit in this experience department. Just now hitting level 9, still has a comfortable goal lead if we look at the net worth on the left-hand side here, having about a 700 to 800 goal lead over Reminisst.
oMarsleezy's been all over the map in terms of invades, but not nearly as much as I would have expected in grouping up with TheYungHomie and forcing the players of Strictly Business to make a choice. Are you okay with the way oMarsleezy's played this game, or would you rather see him group up with Homie a little more?
Well, it's working out for him with this kind of comfortable goalie. He did get the first blood, which obviously helps out, but he's helping out his team in the right places at the right time. 1 level advantage for Fatal Ghost.
Fatal Ghost now in a bit of trouble, but uses the purification beads and the ultimate to force Reminisst back. oMarsleezy wants to continue the fight. There's the knockup, and Reminisst beads is without the gravity surge available. Clow around the back trying to clean up the jungler. Teep locked in the cage with 3 members of Strictly Business, and a great Scarab's Blessing saves the life of Reminisst, but it can't save Mr. Teep.
And Reminisst basically diving the backline, uses that Fear No Evil defensively as TheYungHomie still doing a good job zoning 3-on-3 around that tier 2 tower. Chillvanus gets stunned out, and Caldera taking a bite out of the bug.
Gobbled up is Chillvanus. Chillvanus, Cdot is still in the front line trying to handle Keji. YoungHomie forced to jump away from the damage out of Nikwit, who is here to try and help out the rest of his team. Might be a little late, but Cdot gets the ultimate up just in time and able to double dash away courtesy of that monolith. At the end of the day, it goes 2-1 in favor of Team Return.
And that was a great team fight as well because of just how much damage Reminisst took initially. The fact that the purification beads was used that early on, he had no real business in that team fight, couldn't really make an impact as he used a Fear No Evil at such a late stage that it was basically used defensively. There was no impact at all. The rest of Return Gaming very well positioned, being able to capitalize off of YoungHomie's cage.
Interesting pickup choice here by oMarsleezy. The second item, Brawler's Beatstick. We usually only see this penetration / anti-heal item this early on whenever there's a ton of healing on the enemy team, but I don't think Strictly Business necessarily fit that bill.
Not at all. I mean, there is some self-healing in terms of the HP 5 that Nikwit has from his passive as well as Mr. Teep once he recalls some of those ghosts. Not even any lifesteal on the side of Keji, so like you mentioned before, it is very surprising to have the Brawler's Beatstick that early on, but it still gives you a good amount of physical power, a good amount of penetration just for the power spike, because the Feather Step being up every 8 seconds, that's going to be a lot of damage, especially at this point when there's not that much physical defense to counteract it.
And it's a cheap item early on. Fatal Ghost can eat that Fear No Evil, no purification beats for him, but he does have that Aegis, and the rest of Team Return is here to help him out. Not enough though. Teep, with the help of the Ghost, knocks down Fatal Ghost himself. That's the real Fatal Ghost, is those of Zhong.
Absolutely. It looks like they need to, after this game, swap their gamer tags potentially, but either way, 1-0 for Strictly Business. They're still positioning themselves around this goal here, trying to bait Return in a bad and awkward position. They still have 3 ultimates at their disposal. That's of the Khepri is not going to really allow a lot of kill opportunities for Return, especially when they have the player disadvantage.
And Cdot, his ultimate is on cooldown a little bit late there to try and save his Hunter. Great abduct on the YoungHomie, doesn't allow him to clear the wave, but I don't know if SB is going to have enough damage to punch through the level 10 Odin. Reminisst is looking for it, the knock-up as well, try to get pushed back. There's the impale into the wall. The meditation comes out as Reminisst is able to finish off YoungHomie. Chillvanus prevents himself from being knocked down from those fire shards, courtesy of the Scarab's blessing.
No.
And Nikwit, he's here.
Nikwit is here. He has the ultimate. The beats is not available for Cloud, but there's nobody here to follow up. Just instead throwing Fatal Ghost away from the action. Too deep was Nikwit. The rest of his teammates were very low. Chillvanus using the ultimate on himself earlier on to prevent him from dying onto Cloud's ultimate, which was well timed. Second time that he's done it thus far this game. A little bit of a disconnect between the soul laner.
Yeah, a little. That was such a good engagement too for SB. Chillvanus making the frame perfect play of abducting the Odin before the bird bomb hits. Many of our viewers may not know, but you can interrupt that bird bomb cast. Basically, is if you're able to CC Odin just as he hits the ground, you can cancel out that explosion from the Raven Shield, and that's exactly what you saw Chillvanus do there.
Doesn't matter if it's a stun, knock-up, silence, there's a taunt, there's so many options in terms of disrupting the Odin jump. And not just the Odin jump, you can also disrupt the Anhur jump if you time it well efficiently. I remember back in the launch tournament, actually, Barracuda was practicing with his former support Dare to Care in an Anhur joust versus Apollo just to practice messing out the Anhur jump upon landing.
Well, Reminisst actually teleports into oMarsleezy, but the overhand smash isn't enough. He covered a lot of ground with that Furious Monkey Bounce, but not enough to clean up his jungle opposition. Does get the purification beads from oMarsleezy in exchange for that Fear No Evil, a trade that every Hunbatz player will take every time.
Nice offensive maneuvering by Reminisst, utilizing the Hunbatz mechanics to his fullest advantage. Just unfortunately didn't have the damage quite available at this point. Level 12 does have Hydra's Lament finished right now, but doesn't have the Heartseeker, and that's where the true power spike really relies on for Hunbatz.
Reminisst is a player that we're starting to see make more and more flashy plays, and I'll be honest with you, Toli, whenever we saw him fill in for Elevate at the Fall Finals LAN here for the SCL, he did not impress me. He did not seem to be up to the level of standard for the junglers in the SCL, but he's clearly put in a lot of time and is really starting to be a force to be reckoned with in the jungle in North America.
We talk about practice, and that's all it takes, honestly, at this point, at this stage in the SCL. We're getting closer and closer. The final week, number 5 for all of these teams. YoungHomie not on the mark to be able to get any member locked in that cage, but does buy return a little bit of time just to snag those oracles away and retreat.
SB was really out there there in terms of that cage range. Feather step onto Chillvanus, but the turnaround is good onto oMarsleezy. Keji able to pick him up easily. Chillvanus saves his life once more. Around the back comes Homie, but he's not going to be able to finish him off. Can't say the same for Keji, and Cdot. Another kill goes the way of the rookie hunter for Strictly Business, and now Return is on the run. 3 members will be able to survive, but the Gold Fury is the target now for SB.
Man, Keji's just so good. He threaded the needle right in between Clow and Fatal Ghost. Nickwood probably going to sacrifice his life here so that the rest of his teammates couldn't do the Gold Fury, but TheYungHomie not going to be in trouble. Does pop the shell. The Impale not going to be in range either. Reminisst thinking about chasing, but instead electing to take the win and retreat.
Nickwood's so comfortable on these Guardians, knows exactly what he's able to get away with, but again, it's Chillvanus with the peel on this Khepri. The Scarab's Blessings, they've been on point, though we can all be honest with each other. Timing a Scarab's Blessing in terms of fire shards damage, not the hardest thing in the world.
No, not at all.
But it's been solid timing for them every time, and then the abducts have been the really big key for Chillvanus with the peel.
It's also the patience of using that ultimate, because not all the time do you have to use it defensively. You can also use it as an engage tool where it gives you that added mobility and movement speed. So you could look for some power plays where you use it onto Mr. Teep and he can run the line, diving and penetrating that backline defenses anytime he really wants to on the Zhong, which is now getting really, really scary here. If you look at his item build, Shoes of the Magi, Bancroft's Talon, now more than likely going to be working on that Spear of Magus just to be able to get more penetration.
Not the usual tanky Zhong build that we're used to seeing out of the mid-mages that like to play this kind of battle mage sort of character, and as well going for the sprint instead of the Aegis. That tells me that he's really, really trusting his support to cover his back in case he gets away on low HP.
Absolutely. Just a great job overall by this Khepri player. At the 17-minute mark now, though, Strictly Business was behind earlier on this game, but now they're up about 800 gold, making sure that they're still staying relevant. They're doing a good job so far this split, sitting on the closer to the top of the standings, right underneath my guys. They have 7 points currently with 2 wins and only a split and 1 loss.
Cdot going to get picked up and tossed into the wall. Reminisst pounding him with the autos, but it's just not enough damage quite yet. But that abduct coming through locks Cdot in place long enough to allow Reminisst to pick up number 2 on this Hunbat in the jungle. Every engagement that Strictly Business has been a part of, Reminisst has been right there. He's been a part of every single kill. 2 kills, 5 assists. That's 7 total in SB. They've got 7 on the board.
And it just seems that Strictly Business, they don't want to let go of the pressure. They're all grouped up on the right-hand side. They don't really care that their mid tower is going to get pressured out because they feel that they're confident enough to win this little race of the tier 2 tower. But Return, they're no slouches. They're going to make sure that they get the gold response. And Skadi with the Chaldeer, it seems that Strictly Business miscalculated.
Tier 2 tower definitely going to fall faster in the mid lane, though. Not enough recourse to stop the push on the right-hand side. So even though SB takes a little bit longer, they will secure that 1,500 gold for the team. Love this play out of Return, just allowing SB to push as much as they want because Keji is there with them. It doesn't matter because Fatal Ghost with that Chaldeer, like you mentioned, plus the Nuwa minions, that's more push than SB can really handle.
Absolutely. Now, granted, the minions don't eliminate the backdoor protection, but they could still tank the tower for you, so you're not putting yourself at jeopardy by going for this objective in Return. Get a little bit bitter-sweet here, part of the deal, getting an extra tier 1 tower, extra 500 gold in hand, and that allowed them, they recognized the fact that the Portal Demon wasn't up quite at that point in time, and that the Fire Giant was just too early to go for Strictly Business, and they recognized they could make the rotation between mid and the dual lane, granting more gold.
Well, they could potentially lose this Portal Demon here now that it has respawned, but Clow and TheYungHomie are here to check it out. Cdot uses the Terra's Blessing pretty early on, so SB just going to back up and let that effect wear off. Now that it's gone, they could look for the re-engage. Portal Demon getting pretty low, and it is secured by Strictly Business. TheYungHomie used that jump forward, but just avoids that Whirlwind of Rage and Steel. Nickwood in a potentially bad spot, but now it's Chillvanus locked in the Odin cage. No Scarab's Blessing this time around for the support. Cdot and oMarsleezy deep into the enemy backline, trying to clean up everybody from SB, but they're all still healthy, Tolly.
The shell and the meditation preventing all the damage from Mr. Teep, second victim to fall for Strictly Business, and it seems Keji's going to be next. Strictly Business, they bit off more than they can chew here.
The nice slow from Keji might buy them enough space. No, the root is good from Cdot. Aegis buying Keji a moment, but not enough. Reminisst can't jump away. Only Nickwood left alive, 4 dead, and no one to fall on the side side of Return. A big team fight victory goes the way of the veteran squad.
This is Fire Giant here, aggro. It's going to be clean. 5-on-2. Chillvanus and Nequid could go through the portals here, but the vision control is not in their favor to really be able to do so. Chillvanus does go through the portal. It's going to scare away a little bit. The Fire Giant's low.
It could be going either way right now, but it is going to be Return who secure it. Nequid returns a kill onto oMarsleezy, trying to get something going, but Chillvanus likely to fall here. Still has its Scarab's Blessing, and Fatal Ghost does pop it open, but it's not going to be enough. YoungHomie, he's going to pick up his third kill of the engagement, and that puts Return into double digits in the kill column, 10-8. But the bigger news, that Fire Giant on 4 members of Return.
And that's the magic number 4. oMarsleezy sacrificing his life to ensure that victory for his teammates. Now, put them in a really great spot. Now, despite not being ahead in the gold category, especially when Strictly Business secure this Gold Fury, it's still going to put them in a spot where they're going to start sieging down in the solo lane, in the dual lane as well. There's about 3,500 gold between those 3 towers that they could still put in their pockets.
That's a great point. Whenever you got Fire Giant, sometimes those towers just become gold waiting for you to take. But if you're Strictly Business, do you necessarily give up those tier 2 towers at this stage, considering that they are basically even in terms of gold?
It just depends on what relics are available and the ultimate factors. We saw the Khepri use the ultimate in the last engagement. Depending on how quickly Return looks to engage on the right-hand side, maybe give up the tier 1 in the solo, defend the tier 2. The Khepri ultimate should be back available at that point. And there's a lot of damage reduction here from Strictly Business. You have the Rising Dawn from the Khepri. You also have the Furious Roar from the Xing. And as the game progresses, those 2 abilities in themselves will limit a lot of damage capabilities for Return.
We're right back into it. Gold Fury going to be secured here quickly for that of Strictly Business. I lied to you guys. We're not back in game quite yet. We're back here.
We're really out here.
Right here, ready to go. Either way, Return versus Strictly Business, definitely a very competitive game thus far, and Return continues to look better with each week that passes on. This is a team that may find themselves near the bottom in terms of North American standings coming into the LAN, but I don't know if I would necessarily want to play them if I'm a team.
I would agree with you. You know, it's never a good feeling to only have 1 game victory in the split, but as it progresses, you're getting more and more confidence as you're learning from your losses, you're learning from your 1 victory as well. So this is a good spot for Return as the LAN is going to be approaching momentarily.
Well, either way, they got to approach the enemy Titan if they want to get at least 1 point here in this set up against SB, the number 2 seeded team in North America, coming into this final week of the SCL. Can't believe it's already over, Tully. SCL feels like in all of the spring split, I can't believe it went so fast.
You know, time flies when you're having fun, right?
That is true.
And time is all relative.
We've all had a lot of fun here. Spring split definitely living up to the hype, I think. Great matches across both PC and console. And hopefully these North American players can provide us with a couple more.
And there's going to be a lot of fun this Thursday also with that Spring Fling coming up.
You think that's going to be fun?
Oh, I think it's going to be hilarious. You
I'm
know,
a little nervous.
Your boy Mifflin's coming through.
That's true. My boy Mifflin, Chapo as well, the former console player. And yes, my former teammate. That's the first time I've said that in literally months.
I wasn't going to say it.
Now, I don't know if I believe
If Tom
you.
was here,
Or
you
Taco.
know he was going to ask that.
I know. Either way, we're going to have some great faces. Allied going to be here. Wolfie representing the competitive online scene, of course. You can find all the details online at esports.smitegame.com. Either way, we're going to be talking about what happens here at the end of week 6 of the SCL Return. Trying to make it happen. oMarsleezy loses that Magi's Blessing that really does come into big play here. Every member of Strictly Business has some potent CC in their kit.
That's a 70-second internal cooldown that's not going to be available for quite a while. Not going to be able to probably utilize it for this Phoenix Siege, depending on how long Return really wants to pan this one out, because they still have Fire Giant for another 80 seconds or so. So the difference there is a 20-second window for oMarsleezy to just wait it out ever so slightly.
Ooh, the fog giving Return away into the back line of Strictly Business. YoungHomie finds a great cage onto 3, but it's 3 pretty tanky targets. Teep lock in there. He's the main focus. Reminisst forced to use that Fear No Evil to try and peel everybody off. YoungHomie uses that meditation, and look at how healthy SB are.
Just not able to take advantage of the cage. A lot of control here coming on from Nequid, being able to throw members away, and also scares anyone else from really following up off of the aggression from YoungHomie, but going in the backline is Reminisst.
But he takes more damage than he was really wanting to. I think there, courtesy of that permafrost. Nice 4-man root coming out of Cdot, but no real follow-up from Team Return as they try and siege down this tier 2. 2-man bird bomb coming in from YoungHomie, but he's still pretty low. Desert's Fury through the back line, not enough, and Fatal Ghost cleans up Mr. Teep. Fatal 3, 1, and 6 on this Skadi, and just putting out more damage than SB knows how to handle. Tier 2 tower does fall as Return clean every single tower off the map and get that 3,500 gold that we were discussing.
Very efficient hold, though, from Strictly Business, because they still hold on to their middle Phoenix, which could have been the downfall. Return looked for that engagement. They had a great cage right outside that tier 2 middle tower, but it just wasn't enough to net themselves any kills. But with all the cooldowns being not available for Strictly Business anymore, that was a very easy engage on the right-hand side with a perfect 4-man root by Dot.
And Chillvanus, his shell coming up big in that cage like you mentioned, but once that relic is down, it seems SB is having a bit of trouble handling the just hold forward and go at you kind of team composition that Return has. I'm kind of surprised, though, that Strictly Business wasn't able to take a little bit more off that team fight, just because Return's team composition isn't really, it can't really match the team fighting potential of Strictly Business. But when Return is the one engaging, it's a little bit easier to get away with some flaws in the team composition.
It just doesn't seem that there's too much damage on the side of Strictly Business quite yet. Level 18 Anhur now trying to finishing off his penetration here, going for the Titan's Banes, and we're also seeing for a more utility-based style build coming out of Mr. Teep, going for that Gem of Isolation after the Spear of Mag is going to be able to lock people down, but not necessarily going to net them some kills if Return just keep disengaging the way they are.
And without an Aegis for Mr. Teep, once he's in that cage, he's kind of just a sitting duck in that scenario. Either way, Strictly Business is going to try and turn it around here by this Fire Giant. They're down about 5,000 gold, but at the 25-minute mark, that isn't the end of the world. It's not a place you necessarily want to be, but certainly not an insurmountable lead.
Not too much to write home about, honestly, but Strictly Business, they have the tools to potentially steal away this Fire Giant. That Fear No Evil is going to heavily disrupt the members of Return, and it doesn't seem that Return really want to take the bait quite yet. They do have a slight goalie, but with a 5-on-5 and no Phoenixes down, this is not the point in time where you can really force the issue.
And that's true. There isn't a whole lot of secure on the side of Return to make sure that this Fire Giant is going their way. They don't have that Kraken or Circle of Protection or one of those big burst mage ultimates to make sure it goes their way.
Trying to look for one pick, both of these teams battling for positioning. YoungHomie jumping in, caging in Chillvanus, only one, but in the backhand side, Nickwood forcing out the beats of Fatal Ghost.
YoungHomie tossed right into the teeth of Strictly Business. Chillvanus pulled back in after the knockup, never gets his ultimate off. oMarsleezy gets number 12 on the board for Return. Big bird bomb coming out of YoungHomie, hits 3. The Desert's Fury just not enough. Frenzy popped by YoungHomie, and that helps Clow knock down Teep with the fire shards. Fatal Ghost trying to chase down the remaining members of SB, but that's not quite enough until Fatal Ghost picks up 2 with Cold Ear and Permafrost. 15 now for Return, and Skadi once more being the headliner.
Who needs Fire Giant when you win a team fight like that? 4 for 1. Also the positioning of winning that team fight right by the Phoenixes of Strictly Business, able to just demolish the right-hand side and mid, and by the time Keji has got back to the fountain and into the middle Phoenix, it just wasn't in time.
Oh, Keji almost fell there because of the slide out of Permafrost. Return just too low to secure the 3rd and final Phoenix on this left side for SB, but I'm sure they'll be happy taking 2 down in that engagement. Really, really nice team fight from them. I didn't even see that Frenzy ready to go for YoungHomie, but certainly paid dividends.
Absolutely, especially in conjunction with Clow's ultimate, hitting all 5 members guaranteed out of Strictly Business. Needs to be very accurate about the timing of the shell and the meditation just to be able to counteract that kind of damage. And remember that point in time when I said, you know, 5-on-5, you can't really do the Fire Giant without Phoenixes, but hey, guess what? Return winning that team fight gets 2 Phoenixes down, and with Fire Minions flooding down both of those lanes, this is the point in time where you could flirt with the idea of doing it in front of Strictly Business's face.
That's true, but it is the 2 Phoenixes that are easier to defend in terms of defending both the Fire Giant and your base, the middle and right-hand lanes, but Return, they've got a lot of pressure right now. Jumps forward, oMarsleezy looking to find Reminisst, and the Feather Step and Crushing Earth combination's enough. Cdot evens his score line in 2-2. Teep locked in the cage around 5 members, no Aegis, no life. Fatal Ghost cleans up for number 6, and the rookie Hunter is just making it happen right now for Team Return.
Chillvanus was just too far away to find the Scarab's blessing to save his mid laner's life. The separation, 2 people going mid, 2 people going around the right side, back harpies, and this is going to allow Return Gaming to pick up the Fire Giant and now look to put themselves in a really comfortable position to close out the game. 5
members, all with Fire Giant, and they still have 2 ultimates, Stoli, that Gravity Surge, and more importantly, Fire Shards. Not necessarily the most important ultimate in the early game, but when you're at 30 minutes and you have a Nuwa who has an Obsidian Shard and a Rod of Tahuti, oh yeah, and Fire Giant, that Fire Shard is going to be doing a lot of damage.
Not to mention she's level 19, so once she gets that maxed out ultimate, going to increase that kind of damage output. Trying to engage now is Cdot, finding the root, diving the back on his Reminisst, but he gets stunned out.
Immediately, and Fire Shard's going to be waiting for him on the other end of the wall. Almost makes him fall, but not quite. Clow just barely able to escape. Chillvanus nowhere to go, rooted in place, and Cdot cleans him up. Left side Phoenix falls to the pressure of Return, while Fatal Ghost picks up Teep. Keji forced to jump away, pulled back in by oMarsleezy until the Purification beads, but the Titan is the focus for Return. Fatal Ghost makes sure he picks up 1 more kill in his kill column, but Return now win 2 games in the last 2 sets. That's 2 more points than they had, except for the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely. Now they still have 1 more game to play, potentially, to see if they can close out this set to get 2 additional points in this set. And this was just a great play overall from all the members, I would say, out of Return, being able to really take advantage of the farming capabilities. The Awilix did a good job finding the first blood, and despite falling behind experience-wise, the gold department was all her way.
In strictly business, this is the 2nd seeded team in North America, Toli. They've looked very, very good consistently throughout the season. They're able to find the 2-0 victory over the defending world champs in Obey Alliance. What went wrong for them in this game?
I think that the Zhong in the first game wasn't a big factor, considering the shell and the meditation countered a lot of his damage, and it was a great build idea going in for the Spear of the Magus, but after that point, going for the Gem of Isolation doesn't really synergize with all that damage potential output. Could have looked to start building into that Rod of Tahuti for a bigger power spike, even maybe more penetration.
Well, he needed something else besides that Zhong. Maybe the pick to take it away from Clow wasn't the call, because Clow looked very, very good on that Nuwa. Really had no problems whatsoever with the goddess there. Let's get ready.